designer, Temple, do you tend to visualize the solution, or do you work in a more iterative process?
Well, I tend to see the solutions. I tend to see how to do it. And then when you say integrative, I don't know what you mean by that either. What's an integrative solution?
Iterative, do you have...
I don't even know what that word means. What's iterative mean?
It means that you do it once, and then you want to redo it to refine it, and then you keep redoing it.
Well, one of the problems you have is a lot of people on the spectrum is what I call the perfection problem. They'll destroy a lot of really good work. And the thing you've got to learn is you've got to get work up to a certain standard. I'm going to give you a suggestion of how to get rid of that. Okay, let's say it's some visual thing. Well, let's take something like photography. If you were to go through the National Geographic, which would be like the pinnacle of the photography career, taking pictures for the National Geographic, I bet you can find mistakes, a few technical mistakes in some of those pictures. You know, so you can kind of like group photography into different levels. National Geographic level, and a few other really high-end things. Time magazine level. Then you get into the local newspaper, you know, good snapshots and bad snapshots. And examples of these different things. And so that even if you work for the National Geographic or some big photography studio, you can still have work that'll get published where you can still find something technically wrong with it. In other words, the idea of getting up to a standard. If the person's scientifically inclined, you can tell them you've never reached absolute zero. Absolute zero is the point where all the atoms stop moving. You can approach absolute zero, but you can't get there. You can't get to absolute zero. So some of these things may help because this is a common problem. I mean, I know parents are just so frustrated with their kids deleting off their computer all this beautiful work they've done. Another thing on drawing, you need to learn to draw by hand first. Otherwise, the eye isn't connected to the picture. Okay, right there.
How long did you have that squeeze box, or do you still have it?
Well, the question was how long I had the squeeze box. I built it when I was in high school, and then I built a better version of it after I graduated from college. And it broke 2 years ago, so I didn't get around to fixing it. So, but now I can hug people, so. As far as the pressure goes, there's a lot of simpler, cheaper things you can do with little kids, you know, like sofa cushions and gym mats and things like that.
My other question is about parents being compulsive, maybe more so today. It's hard to tell.
What do you mean parents being compulsive? I don't know what you mean by that.
Demanding perfection. Like they want to make a lot of money, or they want their kid to be real successful. They want their kid to do
well, I'm saying with a lot of these autistic kids, there's not enough demands put on them. I mean, for table manners, I mean, just basic stuff. I mean, some of the behavior in stores is absolutely atrocious. I mean, I watched a 12-year-old autistic boy, very verbal, make a mess in a gas station store. Right. But the thing that was interesting is he never touched the gas pumps. I think the parents had just instinctively stopped that, because that's so dangerous. Never touched, and he got out on the gas pump side, and he never went to the gas pumps. We get in the stores, taking candy and throwing it on the floor, and nothing was done to make him pick it up. And if I had done that, I would have been in a lot of trouble. I mean, I could be taken shopping from a very young age. And the thing that drives me crazy is that I was actually more severe than some of these kids now that I see behaving badly in the store.
Well, my son's not autistic, but he had problems. He has on the sphere, and early on they were criticizing the home front as being compulsive and like part of the
I'm going to have to talk to you afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. But one of the problems we have in trying to figure out behavior problems is I'll have parents say, well, the kid has behavior issues in the classroom. What's a behavior issue in the classroom? Because if he's making weird jokes in class, I'd handle that differently than if he's hauling off hitting people. You see, the way I would deal with those, they're both behavior issues. I can put those in the category of behavior issues. But I'm finding, even with animal behavior problems, people are not specific enough. It's like somebody was asking about the dog. I don't know what the dog was doing. Okay?
I was a caregiver to an autistic gentleman of 50 years.
You said you worked with an autistic gentleman that's 50 years old?
Yep, and every time I greeted him in the morning, I would ask him how he feels. and he could never give me an answer of I feel good or I feel sad, I feel angry. What he would do is he would go into a story of something that happened into his past.
Well, the thing is that asking him sort of what did you do yesterday, how do you feel, there's a problem with accessing the database. Sort of think, you know, Google and things like that. My mind works just like Google does. Well, who do you think made Google? And you asked me what I did yesterday, I don't remember that well, but if you ask me what I did at such and such plant and you name it, or the such and such ranch or something like that, you know, like if you say organic valley, I get one set of images. If you say organic agriculture, that's actually, well, I start just getting a whole bunch of things and get way off the subject. It's almost like, you see, just think about putting keywords into the database. Now, if you asked him, what did you do at recess at school yesterday? He might have an easier time. Or did you know, how did you feel when you went to art class? Or, you know, something a little more specific. See, the normal human mind drops out the details. That's actually been shown in research. What was done in this research is they had people with autism, people with Asperger's or milder autism, and normal people lay in a brain scanner that measures brain function and read a little passage out of a book. And then they'd watch the brain and what lights up. When the autistic person read, just the part of the brain that handles the detail of the words was turned on. When the Asperger person read, you got the details and you got the syntax, kind of the overall gist. And when the normal person read out of the book, the details disappeared. And the normal brain tends to overgeneralize because it's top down. Now the kind of thinking I have is certain things what works really well for, certain kinds of troubleshooting. But to make it work well, I got to load a lot of information into the database. You know, if you read some of my early stuff, I talked about all the stuff about doors. Well, you see, without a visual thing, I can't think. Now I have so many different experiences, I don't have to have all these pictures of doors anymore. Okay, I think we're going to do about 2 more questions right here.
I heard you mentioning that carbs were something that were good to eliminate, and omega oils are good to include.
Well, the problem with the carbs is yeast infections. Man, you got yeast infections. You got to reduce carbs. I have seen endoscope pictures down a kid's trachea. That's the windpipe, where they have moss growing in the trachea. I mean, it looked like an old brick wall full of moss. And I heard somebody back there nodding head. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. And there needs to be 10 tons of sugar cut out.
Do you have other examples of what to omit or other things to omit?
Well, basically what I'm doing is I eat a lot of animal products. I eat lots of meat. I eat lots of vegetables, whole vegetables. I eat lots of whole fruit. No fruit juices because the glycemic index. Look up the glycemic index. Potatoes I've pretty well gotten rid of. Bread I don't eat, even the gluten-free because the glycemic index is too high. It's just, you know, but you can't like be on a strict Atkins diet. I did that, but I eat a lot of vegetables and I eat a lot of Mexican. And then when I gotta do fast food, I do Taco Bell because I can eat the crispy taco with the corn. You know, I had to figure out how to do it on the road. I do Wendy's chili. Always got a little gluten in it, but not enough to matter. Because I've got to I got to function on the road. You see, this is where I'm a very practical problem solver. And I do different things, but since I'm a bottom-up thinker, I'm not so much into the ideology of it. You know, there's one particle of gluten in there, I'm not going to worry about it. And I think sometimes being on a diet, you get too worried about that, because I've seen people where if they eat one crouton, they're really sick. Well, if I eat one crouton, I'm not going to get really sick.
Thanks.
Okay, and then right here, the bandana on your head.
I'm a verbal thinker, but I'm still kind of good at multitasking. Is every kind of case of Asperger's kind of different?
Well, you can have different things in Asperger's, and there's a lot of different stuff called Asperger's. See, the problem is it's a behavioral profile. It's not a precise diagnosis. It's just like profiling hijackers. It's no more accurate than that. And of course, one of the main things they look at is social things. And, you know, different brains get wired up different ways, and you might be, you know, better at multitasking. Us visual thinkers just terrible at multitasking. And I'm finding that's true for, you know, a lot of the non-autistic ones. You see, it's a continuum of different traits. I mean, I think the thing in trying to, like, better your life, I think the way to approach this, don't get hung up on these labels. That's top-down thinking. Let's just stop doing that. Okay, where do you have a specific problem where you need to improve? If you got to learn just basic social skills, and then you got to go out and just, you know, well, I've told people that, you know, like adults on the spectrum, I said, you go out and you go to a local Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever, and I want you just to order a cup of coffee. Just go in there every day. This guy's really low income. That's about all I do. Because I want you to, like, learn how to go up to the counter, order it, say please and thank you, and just get more comfortable doing that. And I want you going to a different coffee shop, you know, kind of around in a rotation. You know, go into a store and just buy just some little thing. Go to the grocery store, cut up your grocery shopping so that, you know, and he can walk to the grocery store. So that you're going to have to just learn how to interact with the people at the grocery store. You've got to practice social skills. The other thing that's good is that someone can kind of critique you, not in front of the other person, and show you where you did something wrong. Maybe you videotape. Because you've got to learn how to do these basic things. So let's look at where there's a specific problem. Let me tell you, first talk I ever gave in graduate school, I panicked and walked out. Panicked, walked right out of the classroom. I left the class with 30 undergraduates there, no teacher. I did that when I was in graduate school, when I was in the master's program in the early 70s. And when I first started doing my cattle talks, the thing that saved me is I had great slides. I had really fabulous slides. And then I have students, and they go up to do their first paper at the Animal Science Society, they're absolutely petrified. And I always go over and make sure the slides are good. And I said, the worst thing that can happen is you can freeze and read your slides. And for a 15-minute presentation at the animal science meetings, nobody's going to get all over you about that. But we've got to make sure your slides are really nice. You know, there's things that you do in practice. Okay, we'll take with maybe somebody over here, right here. My mother's very much still alive. She's 83 years old, and she's going to go to the Emmys with me. And my aunt died in the mid-80s, and my father is done. Okay, I think we'll do one more, and then I'll just hang around. Well, there's a few books left, and then I'll get right there really quick.
Why do you think the squeeze box would help you with the human touch?
Well, the problem I had with the human touch is it couldn't control it. See, the problem is it was like an overwhelming tidal wave of stimulation. The squeeze machine, I could push the lever and make it stop squeezing. I could control it. You see, that's the thing. And when I was a little kid, I had this very big overweight aunt, and she had tons of perfume on, which I absolutely hated. I think perfume needs to be banned from special ed.